Now that is what I call good shooting. Have a nice day. Every single year, without fail, well, one year there was a fail, I like to play through the Call of Duty campaign. I do it to honor the troops. But this year, I found playing through the Call of Duty campaign to be, honestly, a bit of a slog. The first thing I couldn't help but notice were all the blatant downgrades from last year's Call of Duty. Modern Warfare easily had some of the best reload animations in the franchise, and if you ask me, the industry at large. It had some seriously sexy reloads. Nothing says bring it on like the way this guy thumbs shells into his shotgun. Each reload is stuffed with character, conveying aggression and efficiency while granting the player a sense of satisfaction and confidence to tackle the next enemy. It might not seem like it, but a good reload animation can go a long way in making the weapon and the playable character feel more powerful. And in Cold War, the reload animations are just so bland. They've got about as much life in them as current-day Ronald Reagan. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. It's just so flaccid here. The sound design took a pretty big plunge as well.
Don't let them fight! Kill them! Find the bomb!
In Modern Warfare, weapons felt bassy and powerful, whereas in Cold War, they sound kind of tinny and generally underwhelming. Which leads to guns feeling less powerful overall. I mean, seriously, these things feel more like toys rather than instruments of death. Graphics also took a sizable dip across the board, a dip that would go nicely with this beautifully textured bag of chips. Where Modern Warfare looked like a current generation video game, Cold War looks like it's 5 years old. The fact that it's bright, vibrant, and borderline cartoony in some cases doesn't really help too much. And on a gameplay level, enemies don't react when you shoot them. I hate that. I like to see my prey squirm. Across my playthrough, I was also met with a handful of invisible walls, there were objects I should have been able to interact with but couldn't, and I stumbled into a couple of out-of-bounds timers. Why is this area opened up if they're not going to let the player traverse it? And nearly every single one of the loading screen cutscenes ran at a measly 5 frames per second on my original Xbox One, making them quite literally unwatchable. I've never seen a cutscene chug this badly. As I was playing through this game, something felt a little bit off. After a while, I started to suspect that this game was rushed out the door to meet a deadline. I'd like to think I got a nose for that type of thing. I thought I'd have to spend the entirety of this video trying to make a case as to why I thought Call of Duty Cold War was rushed. But it turns out, a quick conversation with Mr. Google led me to some interesting articles. I was right all along, and all this information was widely available well before release. So reports say that Sledgehammer Games and Raven Software were working together for a Call of Duty that was supposed to come out this year in 2020. But for whatever reason, that project got scrapped, and they were given a new assignment: to work on Treyarch's next project, Call of Duty Cold War. Initially, this game was supposed to have an additional year of development behind it before it launched, which explains a lot about why Cold War turned out the way that it did. Treyarch have made some of the most popular campaigns in the series, so I think we can at least partially place a lot of the blame on Activision here. I don't think that the audience would have minded waiting another year for the next Call of Duty game. The player base seems to be relatively happy with Modern Warfare and its content drops. The population is still thriving here too. And let's not forget, Treyarch was tasked with making Cold War in the middle of a global pandemic. I think people would have been more than understanding to wait that extra year. The way I see it, Activision just needed to have another annual Call of Duty release to keep their shareholders happy. So they practically forced their studios to release a game that is pretty much unfinished, which is honestly a bit of a shame because this game had a lot of potential. I found the campaign to be incredibly unremarkable in every sense of the word, but I wouldn't call it terrible. It's really cool that you get to choose 2 starting perks on your character. This adds a little bit of flavor to the mix. I decided to go with virtually no flinch. Flinch is one of my biggest pet peeves in shooters. I've died so many times because my character would rather aim at the moon than the enemy after taking a slug. I also went with the ability to sprint faster for longer to maximize my survivability. The fact that I've only just barely started playing the game and I'm already putting this much thought into it is a good thing. However, it leads to one of my biggest issues with the game. Its difficulty. As an annual tradition, I like to play Call of Duty campaigns on veteran difficulty for the achievements, and Cold War is far and away the easiest COD to date. Typically on veteran mode, you die a lot. Anywhere between 20 to 100 deaths per mission, sometimes even more. The enemies always know where you are. They suffocate you with grenades to force you out of cover. If you position yourself poorly, they laser you down instantly. Now, this isn't necessarily my idea of a fun or interesting challenge in a shooter, but it is a challenge nonetheless. Seeing that checkpoint reached icon at the top of your screen after a particularly grueling segment comes with such a feeling of relief. But in Cold War, something was up. I was able to rinse through dozens of enemy soldiers with almost no trouble. This was due in part to the new body shield mechanic, which essentially allows you to get a bunch of free kills without having to worry about taking cover. Having the option to use a body shield doesn't really add much decision making to the gameplay if you ask me, because it's always more beneficial to have a guy in front of you inhaling all the bullets. I can't help but shake the feeling that Treyarch weren't able to completely finish fully programming the AI for this game, because it's really bad. Now, Call of Duty has never been known for having exceptional AI, but here, in Cold War, enemies practically wrap their mouths around your weapon and pull the trigger for you. That may sound hyperbolic, but it's not. The brain-dead Reds wander into your line of sight without a care in the world, lining up like cattle, hungry for lead. These boobs from Cuba will happily leave their cover and poke their heads into a room that you and 2 allies are posted up in. I'm not cherry-picking here either. Every single combat encounter was plagued by brainless AI. I could stand out in the open for a significant amount of time before the enemies even knew where I was. And sometimes they couldn't find me. That's because they had their backs to me, or maybe they were too busy running towards me in a straight line. And when they finally saw me and decided to open fire, they had a tough time landing their shots. Whereas in previous Call of Duties, positioning myself like this was met with an immediate death. There were times where I was dead certain that I had accidentally picked the easiest difficulty, so I was pausing the game frequently to make sure that I was still on veteran, and I always was. It's not all bad though. As a positive, the level design is pretty good. Most of the combat arenas aren't as linear as previous entries. There's almost always multiple lanes for you to choose from, complete with the occasional flanking route. And there's a decent amount of verticality as well. This adds a good amount of decision making to the encounters. It's nice that it's here, but the level design is drastically undercut by the poor AI. And to give credit where credit's due, Cold War went out of its way to give its locations some atmosphere. There's a lot of pockets of gameplay where you're not just mindlessly shooting people, like the bar in the first mission, or the beginning of the Vietnam mission, where most of the soldiers here appear to be going about their own business, living their lives. Little things like this go a long way in giving a video game a little bit more life. Alright, so far, we've got ourselves bad AI. Unfinished, underdeveloped. Now, I believe firmly that one of the most important attributes of an engaging first-person shooter campaign is variety. Don't stop. That's the motto of the developers of Modern Warfare, who had tons of variety in their game. Let's go take a look at it. Nearly every mission had its own sort of gimmick, whether it was chasing a guy down the street, sweeping through a home full of terrorists, or killing a big buff Russian guy while playing as a toddler. Some encounters were better than others, but Modern Warfare was constantly shaking things up. This is another area where I feel Cold War falls flat. There's not too much variation. It kinda just bobs between a few on-rail segments here and there, standard shootouts, and a decent amount of stealth. There really aren't any noteworthy gimmicks here apart from a helicopter section, which is, it's fine. And this one right here, which I like to refer to as All Russian, where you put on heavy armor in an elevator at the Kremlin, only to come out of it murdering every commie in sight. But for now, I'd like to focus on this stealth section from the mission Brick in the Wall, because this encounter has the bones of what could be a really good segment. The police are on high alert, patrolling the streets, questioning everyone in sight, and you've got to stealthily make your way past them without raising any suspicion. It's a wide open area with multiple routes to take, and an optional objective to boot. On paper, this is great. You're expected to mark enemies with your camera, Far Cry style, and slither your way through the streets undetected. To that I said, nah, I'll take the high ground. So I climbed up these barrels and proceeded to waltz through the encounter with no issues. This little rooftop I'm on here sapped up all the intention out of this encounter. I never came close to getting discovered. I was even able to complete the side objective. Oh. No penalty for murdering innocent cops, huh? Well, that removes some of the decision making, doesn't it? After that, I popped out of the room, climbed on top of a scaffolding, and proceeded to complete the section scot-free. So for this encounter, I feel like we have all the pieces here. They're placed on the board, but we're missing something vital, a worthy opponent. This was like playing chess against a toddler. Like I said, they had the foundation of what could be a potentially neat section, but nothing was curated. Enemies and objects were kinda just plopped onto the map, and it doesn't seem like much more thought was put into it. Like they could have had cops looking out of some of these windows, maybe there could have been some security cameras up here. There's a lot that they could have done, but I genuinely think that this section is incomplete. I feel like it needed another couple of months of playtesting and tweaking to make every route interesting or tense. It was just so uneventful. I felt this way about almost all of the stealth encounters in the game. I bumbled my way through just about all of them without a second thought. There is, however, one section of gameplay that stands head and shoulders above everything else in the game. The first half of the mission, Desperate Measures, is really good. You play as a mole in the Russian embassy, and you're tasked with getting a key card which will unlock the doors and allow our heroes to waltz in and murder everyone on sight. But getting a key card is a bit tricky. For this objective, you pretty much have the entire Kremlin at your disposal, like a little mini open world. And there are 4 different methods of obtaining the key card. But I'm gonna have to have my mom tell you about those, because I gotta go to the bathroom real quick.
Hi, hello. I'm Ren's mother and adult entertainer, Ciara.
You are required to enter a restricted zone and lockpick this door to get it open. Now we need to access this cabinet. Is the combination in this room? Here's hoping. A quick peek at the computer shows corresponding digits on the periodic table. Get off the PC and pull a full 180-degree turn, if you're able. Take a good long look at the poster and memorize the digits. Enter them into the padlock, which is placed too high for midgets. Once you've opened up the cabinet, pick up that vial. Now, feed it to the general while wearing a smile.
Take the moral haiku ground. Create your own card. You can do this without death. Just listen closely. Man needs paperwork. Go to room with paperwork. Give man paperwork. Go to the PC. Place blank key card inside it. This transforms the card. You are now done here. You have completed this task. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for filling in, Mama. Now, initially, I had a limerick and a sonnet to finish out this bit, but my mom likes to charge $10 per minute, so I kind of had to stop. So, as a third option, you can forge up some evidence on an IBM box and frame the general with that, and just snag his keycard when he's not looking. Or You can convince a prisoner to stab the general in the neck with a number 2 pencil and scoop up that keycard once the deed is done. Having the freedom to choose any one of these 4 options to complete the objective is really cool. This Kremlin section was the only part of the campaign that managed to keep me engaged. Although I can't help but wonder, why would you leave a sharpened pencil right next to a prisoner? You're pretty much asking to die. After that section ends, the game quickly devolves back into more boring shootouts, and it goes out with an on-rails segment that ends as soon as it begins. We just detonated a gas bomb in the Kremlin, gunned down dozens of Russian soldiers, and now it's time to make our escape. We hop in the backseat of the car, and boy oh boy am I ready for an all-out, seat-of-your-pants, on-rails segment full of close calls and high-octane thrills. I can't wait to see how we're gonna get out of this one. Oh, we just fade to black. Cool. So, in Cold War, you play as a faceless character named Bell. Ronald Reagan wants you, Brad Pitt, and Leo DiCaprio to stop a guy named Perseus from detonating a bunch of nukes. He totally would ask you to do that. That's so Reagan. Seriously though, I was not interested in this at all. Much like our amnesiac main character, I forgot nearly everything about the story as soon as it ended. Yes, you heard me correctly, our main character has amnesia. You know, the writing trope which is widely regarded as one of the laziest of all time, up there with "it was all a dream." Yeah, so Bell used to work alongside Perseus. As a result of that, Bell knew where to find Perseus, but Bell wasn't willing to give that information over to the CIA. So, the CIA erased his memories and gave him a new personality by turning him into an American spy. To accomplish that, they implanted new memories via brainwashing, such as the Vietnam mission, into his head. Anyway, in the second to last mission, Adler injects you with some sort of memory juice to help you focus on regaining your memories, or as I like to call it, Adlerall. The Adlerall allows us to go inside of Bell's brain to try and extract the memory he has of Perseus's location. At the end of the mission, Perseus tells you where his hideout is.
We will detonate them all from the safety of Solovetsky.
Making everything we've done in the game up until now completely and utterly pointless. We had the answer in our head all along. Why bother going through the entire campaign when all we had to do was simply remember something? All the stuff we did, all the people we killed, the teammates we lost, all the evidence we've collected has basically amounted to nothing. Sure, it affects the endings, but none of that led to finding Perseus. I'm just here scratching my head wondering, why didn't they just extract the memories from Bell with the Adlerall at the start? Especially because the memory juice had no negative effects on Bell whatsoever. So why'd they wait? And if they fail, wipe his brain, try again, right? Now maybe I'm being unreasonable here, but this entire brainwashing nonsense just felt so forced and contrived to me. They also telegraphed the twist from a mile away. After the very first mission, when I started talking to Park, this British chick, one of the dialogue options was, "Have we worked together before?" I knew right then and there that our boy had amnesia. It's not difficult to put the pieces together. A good spy never forgets a face, and the fact that she didn't immediately dismiss his suspicions told me everything I needed to know. Something was afoot. To lay it on even thicker, later on in the story, our main character completely forgot about decrypting some intel. It's hardly even a surprise that you have amnesia at this point because the game is practically telling you that you have it. It's all too common for spy stories to have a twist, usually in the form of someone you trusted isn't actually trustworthy. So at the beginning of this game, I literally thought to myself, I bet the entire team is lying to me, forming some kind of ruse. Then I thought, nah, they wouldn't do that. That's too stupid. Lo and behold, that's exactly what they did. You know, I'd be much more forgiving of the lousy twist if everything surrounding it had been presented well. You know, with strong writing and deep characters. But that's just not the case. The dialogue was generic at best and laughable at worst. And if you don't believe me, I downloaded a couple of cutscenes onto my old monocular here, and let's check them out.
Sir, their requests are highly irregular, most likely illegal.
What the hell are you talking about? You know who we are?
Every mission we go on is illegal. You knew the nuke was from Greenlight, didn't tell us! What else are you hiding? Maybe I can knock the truth out of you.
Stop talking.
Perseus was here. He shot us. Escaped.
Perseus would never leave his precious nuke behind. We wouldn't have this problem if you'd done your job. Killed Perseus in Vietnam.
Careful, Hudson. Next time, I might not stop Woods.
The characters don't have much going on either. We never learn of any of their personality traits, we don't discover who they are as people, their flaws, or what makes them tick. We get almost nothing. There was a perfect opportunity to give these characters depth too. In between missions, you can walk around and talk to the entire crew, but all we're given here is drivel about the upcoming mission and surface-level character traits such as, "Don't ask Adler about his scar," or "Thanks for killing the bad lady who gave me this scar."
That's a dirty cut.
It's all related to scars. I don't get it. Now, as I write this script, I realize that I am expecting far too much out of a Call of Duty campaign. But in times like these, when I'm left with nothing, I can't help but scrutinize. I know I definitely missed out on a fair bit. Like, I'm told that this character here was a big deal in Modern Warfare. But details like this were lost on me because I only played through these games once when they came out years ago. It's cool that this is here for the fans, but Call of Duty has never managed to make any sort of impact on me with its storytelling. As a positive though, it's cool that there are 3 different endings you can get depending on who you've decided to save and how efficiently you've completed the side missions, so at least there's that. It's entirely possible that I've been too harsh on the plot here. Maybe you were able to get something out of this game's story, and if you did, that's great. But I would also hope that you could understand where I'm coming from when I say that this game gave me absolutely nothing. Maybe I'm being too cynical, but I feel like the decision to cut back and make this a spy game seems more like an excuse to not have to create the big, bombastic battles and set pieces that the franchise is known for. What I'm trying to say is, going with a smaller scale spy story felt more like a limitation rather than an artistic choice. So, in summation, I would like to make my case for as to why they were rushing this game's release, okay? Up here we got bad AI, what I perceive to be unfinished AI. And if we journey on down here, the writing and the dialogue was just awful, right? It kind of felt like we were playing through a rough draft. And then we had unfinished stealth encounters of the third kind, okay? Down here, terrible performance. Lots of crashes, lots of bugs, lots of general naughtiness. And much like what the shark experienced on the set of Jaws. That's Bruce, that's his name. And up here we have 5, okay? A product that is nowhere near as good as the one that came before it. Now, when you stack all this evidence up against an article I found from a Japanese website called Kotaku, pretty much stating what I've been saying this whole time, that the game was rushed, the development woes, what have you, well, I don't know what to tell you. Proof's in the pudding, okay? This thing was rushed, all right? I know there's an entire multiplayer component that I haven't even mentioned, but that's because it doesn't interest me. It's decent casual fun with buddies, but with the exception of last year's Modern Warfare, Call of Duty multiplayer has never been for me. I played the multiplayer for about 3 hours total, I unlocked some weapons, called in a few attack choppers, and had some laughs. But after that short span of time, I feel like I've already experienced everything the game has to offer. This isn't something I see myself returning to very often, if ever. Same with zombies. I fooled around in there for a bit, I got to use the Ronald Reagan, and it's a decent game type. But to be honest, I've never enjoyed playing zombies. It's never managed to engage me, but it looks like they've made some nice additions to it in the form of weapon upgrades and an option to call in a chopper to come and save you, which people seem to be enjoying, so good for them. You know, I can't help but wonder what Ronald Reagan would have thought of this year's Call of Duty. Maybe if he were here with us today, he could enlighten us. My fellow Americans, Cold War was one of the most bland games I've ever played. As a reviewer and a former US president, I hate stuff that's just average. Makes me feel like I don't have much to talk about. And as a red-blooded American citizen, I believe that I reserve the right to a refund. Amen. Thank you. At this point, Call of Duty is a franchise that is made for pretty much everyone. Most people play it exclusively for the multiplayer, while others get it for the zombies. But me, I've always been the weirdo that only ever plays them for the campaign. That's where my interests have always lied, which is why it's the sole focus of this video. But to end on a good note, I'd like to say that this game could have turned out far worse than it did. With 3 studios working on this at once, there were far too many cooks in the kitchen. Let's not forget they also had to develop this thing for 2 new consoles, and they still got it done, in the middle of a pandemic no less. Even though I really don't care for the game, and even though I think they should have just waited the extra year, I gotta admit, I am thoroughly impressed that they managed to turn this thing around as quickly as they did. Maybe next year after I turn 26, Call of Duty will be better. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed this at all, pop a like down below. Be sure to subscribe. I put everything I have into each and every one of these videos. Maybe become a patron. Got a lot of cool bonuses on there for you. And the support from all these lovely fellas helps me continue to increase the quality of my content. Also, check me out on Twitch. I stream over there every single Tuesday. I could take on 105-year-olds individually before I was winded. Especially if they're one of the kids where the soft spot on the skull is still there. It's an easy thumb job and the kid's gone. A goner. Bring the next one out. Make sure to join the Discord to be featured at the end of my videos through the Photoshop competition here. And that does it for me, everybody. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.